Welcome back to Building Character, where we figure out how to play as your favorite fictional characters in Dungeons & Dragons. Remember to vote in the poll and like and subscribe to be blessed by whatever deity you choose. Maybe. Hey everybody, before we get started, I've just got to address something. This isn't Goblin Slayer, even though Goblin Slayer did win the poll. I explained why on my Twitter. You can check that out if you want to know more, but basically I just thought it was kind of gross. And since these videos act as implicit advertisements, I don't want to advertise something I'm not comfortable with. I'm doing my darndest to research things in the future before I put them on a poll so that nobody votes on a poll for something I don't want to do. Anyway, today we're building Alexander Anderson from Hellsing, a construction of the church designed to murder unholy devil spawn. Somehow, this manifestation of man's interpretation of God's will turned into a hyper-violent zealot who goes out of control and often causes more harm than good. Who could have seen that coming? Let's start off with our goals for this build. First, we need a lot of swords. So many swords, and all of them blessed to harm evil monsters. Next, we need a healing factor, which is pretty self-explanatory. We've got to make the boo-boos go away. Finally, we'll get that frantic speed that makes us hard to keep up with. For stats, we're using the standard point array from the player's handbook, and it's an anime character, so turn everything to 20. If your DM isn't cool with that, I guess you'll have to organize these stats into some sort of hierarchy. I'll be using the standard point array. If you disagree with the placement, point out what stat should switch out, otherwise you're just whining until you get a perfect character. Dexterity will be number 1. Your swords aren't long and your armor isn't heavy. Your favorite saint is Lightning McQueen. You are speed. Constitution next, you're a regenerator, sure, but before you start regenerating, you can take a beating. Wisdom after that, your senses are sharp, and this will help you listen for monsters. Follow that up with intelligence. Religion is tied to intelligence, and you're a holy warrior. It would be embarrassing if you got fact-checked on your Bible verses after all that zealotry. Strength is a little low, we just don't really need it. We'll dump charisma instead, though. You're not great at convincing people to your cause, you mostly just murder them. Most Catholics are humans, but you're specifically not a human. The regenerator isn't a D&D race. I considered half-orc because they're really good at not dying, but that isn't recovery. For that, we need to go with a hill dwarf. Yep, making him a dwarf. He's 6'8", but none of his abilities are tied to being uncomfortable in coach on an airplane, so I don't care. Dwarves get +2 constitution and +1 wisdom, 60 feet of dark vision, dwarven resilience to resist poison damage and get advantage on saves against being poisoned, proficiency in a type of tool. I'll go with mason's tools because architecture is pretty big for cathedrals. Speaking of, you also have stone cutting, which gives you advantage on history checks related to stonework. Hill dwarves are the bulkiest of dwarves because of dwarven toughness, giving you an extra HP every time you level up. The regeneration is going to come in later, but for now, take the soldier background. For athletics and intimidation proficiency, you're a living weapon for the church. That's pretty soldiery. We'll kick things off as a monk to start attacking as fast as we can. First level monks can learn 2 skills from the monk list. Religion and perception will round off your papist sensibilities. Monks don't wear armor, they wear whatever they want and kick ass in it anyway. So trench coat is an option thanks to unarmored defense, making your AC 10 plus your dexterity and wisdom modifier while you're not wearing armor. You can also use martial arts while you're unarmored, letting you use your dexterity for your unarmed attacks. They deal 1d4 damage thanks to monk die, and you can make an unarmed attack as a bonus action after you take the attack action unarmed or with a monk weapon. Monk weapons are any simple weapon that's not two-handed or heavy, and also including short swords, which is what I would say his bayonets are. Quick note about dual wielding, you need to use light weapons unless you take a feat, but we're kind of strapped for ability score improvements here, so we're not taking that feat. And you can make an attack with that offhand weapon as a bonus action, but you can't add your ability modifier to the damage, just the dice roll. We'll fix that up in a minute here, but first we need to make sure your weapons can get through vampiric resistances as quickly as possible. A great way to do that is to bounce over to cleric, specifically a war cleric. We're making what I like to call an IKEA paladin. It's when you don't want to do paladin stats like strength and charisma, but still want that holy warrior vibe. Take a martial class, in this case monk, and pair it with cleric. The spell list is pretty similar to the paladin spell list, and you actually get more channel divinities later. First things first, you're a war priest, letting you make a weapon attack as a bonus action, an amount of times equal to your wisdom modifier per long rest. These attacks do get to add your ability modifier, unlike the normal two-handed technique, so we've already got a couple of turns per day. We can use an Anderson-esque flurry. You can learn a couple of spells from a war list. Divine Fury adds a d4 of radiant damage to all your weapon attacks for up to a minute, depending on your concentration, which vampires don't resist. Keep in mind, this isn't just one weapon either, it's all weapon attacks, which makes it great when you're swinging your sword super fast. Shield of Faith is also on the war list, letting you add 2 to the AC of a creature of your choice for up to 10 minutes, depending on your concentration, if you want to play a little bit more defensively. Just keep in mind you can't have 2 concentration spells up at the same time. For your first level spells, Cure Wounds heals a creature you touch 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier. You're allowed to cast it on yourself. This is our first method of regeneration, but we'll be getting even more. Also, I want to point out you can use this on the rest of your party, and if you're playing a cleric who doesn't heal other people, they will be justifiably pissed at you. Tulak does not condone stingy healing. Protection from evil and good lets a creature you touch become immune to the effects of charming, fear, or possession from aberrations, celestials, elementals, fiends, fae, and undead, and it gives those funky creatures disadvantage on attacks to hit them, lasting for up to 10 minutes depending on your concentration. You're the best monster hunter the Vatican has. Obviously, they're gonna struggle to hit you. Technically, you can learn a number of cleric spells equal to your cleric level plus your wisdom modifier and swap them out every long rest, so if you want, maybe grab some more. For your cantrips, guidance and resistance give a creature you touch a d4 for ability checks and saving throws respectively. Both are concentration, but guidance is especially useful outside of combat when you're generally not concentrating on spells. For your last cantrip, Spare the Dying is useful to automatically stabilize a creature, making death saves. None of the offensive cleric cantrips seem in character for Anderson, but that's fine. You've got enough weapon skills that shouldn't be a problem. One more quick multi-class dip into fighter to make sure all of our bonus action attacks are as nice as possible. First level fighters get a fighting style. 2-weapon fighting lets you add your ability modifier to the damage of your offhand attack. Dexterity, more like ambidexterity. You also get Second Wind, which I kind of forgot about when I decided to take this level, but it works out nicely, letting you heal 1d10 plus your fighter level as a bonus action once per short rest, making Second Wind our second regenerative ability. But 2 can be as bad as 1. It's the loneliest number since the number 1, in fact. So how about a third? Second level monks get key points you can spend to do cool Catholic stuff, most notably from the new class feature variants Unearthed Arcana, free to Google online. You can use Quickened Healing, letting you spend 2 key points to roll a monk die and heal that amount. You can also use Step in the Wind to dash or disengage as a bonus action, and double your jump distance till the end of your turn as well. Movement is always nice. Flurry of Blows wouldn't be something I see you using a lot, but it lets you spend a key point to make 2 unarmed attacks as a bonus action instead of 1. Patient Defense, however, is probably going to be used quite a bit, letting you dodge as a bonus action, giving you advantage on dexterity saves, and giving creatures disadvantage to hit you until your next turn. This is pretty great at the moment, but will get even better later, no spoilers. Finally, you get unarmored movement at this level, letting you get a little bit quicker when you're not wearing armor. This will scale as you level up, so check out the monk section of the player's handbook to figure out how fast you are at any given level. Third level monks get to deflect missiles, letting you reduce the damage of incoming ranged attacks by 1d10 plus your dexterity modifier and monk level. Dropping it to 0, you can yeet it back at someone as a monk weapon by spending a key point, so bullets aren't really a concern for you. This is also where you get to pick a monastic tradition, and I know we use it a lot, but hey, Kensei monks are really useful for a lot of builds. What can I say? First, you can pick 2 types of weapons to be Kensei weapons, a melee weapon and a ranged weapon. Alexander doesn't really use ranged weapons, so probably just focus on the melee ones. With Kensei weapons, you can make an agile parry, adding 2 to your AC while you're holding a Kensei weapon, and make an unarmed attack as part of your attack action. Put a kick into your combo and you'll be harder to hit until the start of your next turn. Kensei's shot is for ranged weapons, hence the shot. It lets you spend a bonus action to add a d4 to your ranged attack damage for the rest of the turn. But forget about that. You've got Way of the Brush, giving you calligraphy proficiency. You may be an agent of God, but now you have the power of one. Fourth level monks get Slow Fall, letting you reduce falling damage by 5 times your monk level as a reaction. If you want to surprise the protagonist by dropping in behind them, this is a must. You also get an ability score improvement or a feat. The Dwarven Fortitude feat from Xanathar's Guide to Everything gives you +1 Constitution, and you can spend your hit die when you dodge, adding your Constitution modifier to the healing. Dwarves are the only race that can take this feat, making them the ideal choice to be regenerators, even if they are a couple feet shorter than Anderson. 5th level monks get Stunning Strike, letting you force a Constitution save of 8 plus your proficiency bonus and wisdom modifier on a creature you hit with a melee attack, stunning them until the end of your next turn if they fail. This lets you get advantage on all follow-up attack rolls, so it'd be really nice if you had some more attacks. Thankfully, you get extra attack here, letting you make 2 attacks with your action instead of 1. Not counting the third with your bonus action. With Divine Fury up, that's an extra 3d4 radiant damage per round, which is pretty nice. Oh, and your monk die increases to a d6 for more damage and more healing from Quickened Healing. 6th level Kensei monks get magical Kensei weapons, making your Kensei weapons magical in terms of overcoming resistances. So even if you don't want to cast Divine Fury, you'll still be able to carve through the undead. You also get to make a Deft Strike, letting you spend a key point to add an extra monk die to the damage of a Kensei weapon attack once per round. Everything you're fighting likes to regenerate, so extra damage is helpful. If you really really want to kick something evil in the face, you also have Key Empowered Strikes, making your unarmed attacks magical in terms of overcoming resistances. 7th level monks get Stillness of Mind, letting you remove an effect of charming or frightening. You don't really have time to be scared, you're a busy guy. Even better, you get Evasion, letting you take half damage on failed dex saves and no damage on successful ones, so things like Fireball and Lightning Bolt aren't as worrisome. 8th level monks get an ability score improvement, letting us round up our dexterity and constitution modifiers. Wisdom actually isn't that important for this build. Most of our cleric spells are just flat buffs, and they don't need a modifier. But speaking of cleric, let's go back to the 2nd level of cleric, giving us a channel of divinity to use once per short rest. Turn Undead forces a wisdom saving throw on undead within 30 feet of you. Failing that, they dash away with their action and can't take reactions for a minute or until it takes damage. For once, this ability actually feels in character, which is nice. If you'd rather, you can use Guided Strike to add 10 to one weapon attack. Hitting is good, but personally I think a big undead expulsion might be better. 3rd level clerics can learn 2nd level spells, 2 from the war domain list here. Magical Weapon lets you add 1 to the attack and damage rolls of a weapon for up to an hour depending on your concentration for a little extra oomph with each hit. Spiritual Weapon lets you summon a floating weapon as a bonus action that you can move 20 feet and make an attack with as a bonus action every round for a minute. Deals 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier and damage, no concentration required. This could be an extra bayonet, Lord knows you've got plenty of them. For other spells, Aid adds 5 to the current and maximum hit points of up to 3 creatures for 8 hours, also not concentration. You can get a little healthier and make some of your soldiers healthier as well. 4th level clerics get an ability score improvement. More dexterity is going to be my recommendation. Physical attacks are your best option for dealing damage. The flavor of spiritual weapon is nice, but it's not super useful with the rest of the build. Your bayonet attacks are just better. 5th level clerics now destroy undead that fail to save on turn undead if their challenge rating is below 1/2, making it easier to clear out the weaker ghouls on your way to Alucard. You can also use 3rd level spells. From the war cleric list, Crusader's Mantle is like Divine Favor for all friendly creatures within 30 feet of you, adding a d4 of radiant damage to all their weapon attacks for a minute depending on your concentration. Spirit Guardian surrounds you in a 15-foot radius of Holy Protectors, forcing wisdom saving throws on hostile creatures inside, dealing 3d8 radiant damage if they fail, half if they succeed, and cutting their movement speed by half. This is your Iscariot unit coming in for backup. It's always nice to have some backup. For some spells from the cleric list, Beacon of Hope gives creatures within 30 feet of you advantage on wisdom saves and death saves, and they automatically heal the maximum amount from any healing for up to a minute depending on your concentration. With all your methods of healing, this makes your regeneration unbelievably strong. Glyph of Warding lets you put a protective seal on an object. If it's interacted with by someone you don't want it to be, they'll either be hit by an explosive rune, dealing 5d8 acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage on a failed dex save, or half as much on a success, or a spell that you store in the glyph of 3rd level or lower. I'd recommend just going with the explosive rune. That should be enough to keep everyone locked in the fight with you. Keep in mind the spell takes an hour to cast, so you'll need some time to get it going. 6th level clerics can now use 2 channels of divinity per short rest, and war clerics can use War God's Blessing, basically Guided Strike for other creatures within 30 feet of you that you use as a reaction to add 10 to the attack rolls the creature makes. Honestly, I'd just use Guided Strike. Your hits are probably better than the hits of your allies. 7th level clerics can learn 4th level spells. Stone Skin from the War Domain list lets a creature you touch resist bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons for up to an hour depending on your concentration. It's nice to shrug off getting shot. Death Ward from the regular cleric list lets you prevent a creature from dropping to 0 HP the first time they normally would in an 8-hour period. Instead, they drop to 1 HP. We've all been too stingy with our healing spells in the past and ended up passing out before we can heal. This should make that situation less common. 8th level clerics can destroy undead up to challenge rating 1 or lower now if they fail a save. You get Divine Strike, letting you add a d8 of damage to 1 weapon attack per round, which is always nice, and you'll get our last ability score improvement, cap off your dexterity for better AC, attack rolls, and damage rolls. We'll round this off with some more monk levels. 9th level monks get unarmored movement improvement, letting you run up walls and over water while not wearing armor. We're unfortunately not able to grab teleportation anywhere in this build, but you can disengage as a bonus action and move really fast. Mechanically, there's not much of a difference. Anderson doesn't ever go dimension door distances. Misty Step is all that I would want, which is basically disengagement in an extra 30 feet. You've got that. 10th level monks get Purity of Body, making you immune to disease and poison. Obviously, your healing factor has grown extra powerful, shutting down any illness as it enters. Our capstone is the 11th level of Kensei Monk, letting you sharpen the blade, spending up to 3 key points as a bonus action to give a weapon bonuses to attack and damage rolls equal to the number of points you've expended for 1 minute, no concentration required. If you land all the attacks you can with that, that would be an extra 60 damage from 3 key points. Pretty worthwhile investment. Oh, and your monk die increases to a D8 for more damage and better quickened healing. Now that we've hit level 20, let's figure out how viable this build is. First, you're able to recover health in so many ways, and extra quickly if you throw up that beacon of health. Pairing that with over 200 HP, you should be in the fight for a while. You can also deal some great damage with magical weapons, 3 attacks per round, and extra damage from deft and divine strikes. Finally, you've got great mobility, with unarmored movement making you the world's fastest papist. For weaknesses, your casting modifier isn't great, making spell saves and attacks a little less viable than straight buffs. You're also lacking in some ability scores like strength, intelligence, and charisma that could leave you on the wrong end of some nasty saving throws. Finally, key points run out quickly. Patient defense and quickened healing make yours go away especially fast, but as long as you have self-control, you should be fine. Keep your more zealous tendencies at bay, and remember to keep yourself alive. Only a man can kill a monster. Going too far could get you nailed by something more powerful than you. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, subscribe for more. We make 2 videos every week. And click the annotation in the top right corner of the video to vote in the poll. This week we have Natsu from Fairy Tail, Escanor from 7 Deadly Sins, and Archer from Fate's Stay Night. I don't really know exactly how that's supposed to be pronounced.